iScrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. We're doing this live. We try to go every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So those of you that are tuning in live, we welcome you to the session. Please feel free to ask us any questions, post any comments, even if it's as simple as a hello. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to continue to post your prices through the website, iScrapApp.com. That's where we gather a lot of our information, of course, along with all other types of market news and other people that we get it from. But the prices that we get from you guys are what we help determine the national price averages, helps to give you more information, and we look forward to really spitting off more information into your bucket, into your mind, so you can figure out what's going on with the scrap metal markets. So like I said, feel free to ask questions. If you're watching this after the live thing, please feel free to ask questions. What we've seen over the last few weeks, more and more people are answering other people's questions before we even have a chance to get to them. And that's what the goal is, to be able to have the scrap community to be able to interact with each other and help learn, grow, and make more money with your scrap by teaching others things that you do. We'd like to give you a little market news, and of course we'd like to start off with some positive news. So let's start off with some of the non-ferrous news that we've heard as of late. Now the market is slightly down, and that might not be positive, but it is not down that badly. What's happened over the last few weeks is we've heard a lot of back and forth talks about the different trade scenarios that are going on and the negotiations going on between the Chinese and the US. Now, a lot of lower level people from both governments have been talking about the basics block work to be able to start to grow this deal, which is due in 37 days or sooner, before another round of tariffs gets implemented from the US to China. We're sure that there will be retaliatory tariffs from the Chinese to the US, but we're trying to avoid both of those things, and that's why a lot of the country they're talking to each other back and forth, and the negotiators are starting. But what we've heard the last couple of days, and that's one of the reasons we saw copper drop yesterday, was there was not much news going on. So without there being much news going on and there being a little bit of negative news in talks between the two countries, they were saying that they were waiting for some of the major negotiators to come on board early next week, and that's why we saw a bit of a stalemate in the last few days with the talks. Now, these talks really are very, very crucial, and we've heard a lot of people talking about them. We've read a lot of different articles. We've seen a lot of different opinions. These talks are going to lead to one of two things. A very quick increase in the market in March. You should see prices jump 15 to 20 cents a pound on copper, probably 5 to 15 cents per pound on aluminum. If these talks don't go the way that we'd like, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those markets drop another 15 to 20 cents on copper and another 5 to 10 cents on aluminum. Now, the aluminum market really has been brutalized over the last year and a half with these tariffs going in, and it doesn't seem to be getting any stronger any quicker. We've seen aluminum prices continuing to fall, with some of the sheet aluminum prices reaching the low 20 cent per pound level. We've seen some higher prices in the low to mid 30s, but overall the sheet prices have really decreased, as have clean grades of aluminum such as bare 6063, 6061, and other higher grades of aluminum scrap. Now, with more of the material staying here in the US, we've seen some of these larger producers that are getting material in, we've seen their profits surge higher than ever. Now, their profits are surging because they are paying less for material. They have more of an advantage selling their US-made product in the US, and that's what some of the tariffs were aiming to do. Now, as scrappers, that really has hurt us because the prices have decreased so much that many people are holding on to their material. We've received dozens of phone calls, emails, Facebook messages, and different communications online with many, many people holding on to their scrap. Some people have even said that maybe if we band together as a scrapping community, we'll be able to make the prices change because we'll hold so much material. Now, on paper, that's a great idea, but you're talking about such a small amount of scrap to the big picture that you really have to look at it and say the only way for scrap prices to really change are a few things happening. The tariff war going on between the US and the Chinese is one of them. A major development of a third world country such as India, adding infrastructure such as water pipes, gas lines, new telecommunications, doing what the Chinese did about 20 years ago. That would be a dramatic change, and that would help the scrap prices. What else would be a big change? Well, maybe the oil prices shoot up because the OPEC countries continue to tighten their output. Maybe the US hits a bit of a snag in their oil producing, which doesn't seem like it's looking like it's going to be happening anytime soon, but it always is a what if. Now, these are all different factors that contribute to scrap metal prices, and it's very, very difficult to tell what's going to happen, only to think about what's going to happen going forward. Once you think about what's going to happen and try to come up with the right idea and concept, then you can really get a good grasp of what's going on. But we go back to one of the numbers that we mentioned in our report, and we mentioned a little while ago, 37 days. 37 days until March 1st hits, and what we need to see in the next 2 weeks is some very major trade talks going on. If you start to see the stock market rising, as it has in the early weeks of 2019, hitting some of its highest levels in 10 years for the month of January, even with some of the drops we saw yesterday, the stock market is still up for 2019. If you start to see, hear, or experience the stock market starting to surge, that's going to help a lot of the scrap prices, especially if you see negotiations working out well. Now, what does the U.S. want? The U.S. wants, the Chinese to stop stealing trade secrets. They want them to open up their economy so outside companies can come in, own a company, open up a branch, and not have it owned by any of the Chinese government or any of the people there. And that's one of the things that have been one of the real debates. The Chinese have brought a lot of their products here to the U.S., a lot of their companies here to the U.S., but they haven't allowed a lot of those products or companies to open up their own shops without being 51% Chinese owned or more, sometimes 100% ever. Now, that's one of the major sticking points in that small 30-second to 1 minute blob that kind of talks about how the disparity is and how they're trying to change things. My opinion, I think they're going to be forced to work something out. The U.S. is going to become less and less dedicated or dependent, less and less dependent on the Chinese products. Well, the Chinese sell so much of their material to the United States, they are eventually going to have to bend. Maybe not break, because we don't want anyone to break. We want both sides to walk away from the negotiating table with a smile on their face, feeling like they gave something, but also that they got something. That's going to be the major secret going into this thing. It has to be a deal that works both ways for both countries to make money, treat each other fairly, and make sure that the companies that are operating and making money within those countries are also going to get treated fairly. So that was a little more of a tangent than I planned to go on, but that's kind of what happens on these weekly reports. Things pop up and different market news comes into play, and we like to react as best we possibly can. So a couple of other news items. We haven't seen the steel markets really change, and after the brutal month of December and beginning of January that we saw, that's a good thing. We're A-okay with that. While the steel prices haven't changed, it seems like some of the demands for steel has decreased. We haven't seen the steel prices really jump up or down. We've seen some light iron prices reported anywhere from $60 per ton to $140, depending on what yard and where it is. But overall, the market has been steady over the last 2 weeks. A lot of that has been on oil news, where OPEC has tightened their supply, where the gas prices have started to creep up a little bit, and what we're going to see the next few months is how the world reacts to some of these oil prices, which seem to be going up coming very soon. Those oil prices increasing, of course, are going to affect the scrap metal prices, but it seems that as time goes on, the traditional effects that the oil had on scrap and on the commodities market is becoming less and less predictable, so we're really in a wait-and-see approach as much as you are as well. Guys, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. Please feel free to comment, let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll continue to pump more information into you. And as a quick aside, don't forget, every Saturday we like to do our weekly reported prices that we've seen throughout the country and in Canada as well. This should hopefully help you know where the market's going and if you're getting a fair price for your metals. Until next week, iScrappers, I'll scrap you later.